For over 4,000 years these stone giants have watched the Nile flow and the desert winds blow. The pyramids of Egypt still stand as silent witnesses to one of the greatest civilizations in history, and they continue to ask us the same question: how and why were they built? Across the ages, pharaohs, priests, soldiers, scholars, and modern travelers have stood beneath these stones feeling the same wonder. In this documentary, we will journey back more than 40 centuries to explore the origins, the engineering, and the enduring mysteries of the pyramids. More than 5,000 years ago, tribal communities united under a single ruler, King Narmer, known in legend as Menes, founding the first dynasty and the first territorial state in history. With political unity came organized labor and monumental architecture. Before the pyramids, the elite and early pharaohs were buried in flat-topped rectangular tombs called mastabas. These simple mud brick structures marked the first step in a long architectural journey that would culminate in the stone pyramids. Religion shaped everything in ancient Egypt. Life on earth was seen as a brief stage before an eternal afterlife. The king, regarded as the living Horus and son of the sun god Ra, required a tomb worthy of a god to ensure his safe journey into eternity. The fertile valley produced surplus harvests which fed not just farmers but also armies of skilled workers. Organized labor, abundant limestone, and a strong central government laid the foundations for Egypt's great age of monumental stone construction. In the Third Dynasty, around 2700 BCE, Pharaoh Djoser dreamed of a tomb unlike any before. He turned to his brilliant vizier and architect Imhotep, whose genius would forever change Egyptian architecture. Imhotep stacked 6 mastabas, one above another, to create the world's first great stone monument, the Step Pyramid of Saqqara. For the first time, Egyptians abandoned mud brick and built entirely in quarried limestone. The pyramid's rising steps symbolized a giant staircase for the king's soul to ascend toward the sun god Ra. It was a fusion of religion, astronomy, and political power in stone. Constructing this monument taught the Egyptians crucial lessons in quarrying, transporting heavy blocks, and planning internal chambers. These skills paved the way for the smooth-sided pyramids that would follow. A few generations later, Pharaoh Sneferu came to the throne with a passion for grand construction. His reign marked the true beginning of Egypt's golden age of pyramids. Sneferu's first attempt at Meidum began as a step pyramid but later was modified into smooth sides. Structural flaws caused its outer layers to collapse, leaving a mysterious tower-like core that still stands today. Undeterred, Sneferu built another pyramid at Dahshur. Halfway up, builders changed the angle from 54 degrees to 43 degrees to prevent instability, creating the famous bent pyramid, a unique testimony to ancient trial and error. Learning from past mistakes, Sneferu commissioned a third monument, the Red Pyramid. With its perfect smooth sides and stable angle, it became Egypt's first successful true pyramid and set the template for the giants at Giza. These massive works relied on well-organized teams of thousands of skilled laborers. Seasonal farmers joined the crews during Nile floods, receiving bread, beer, and shelter for their service. By the end of his long reign, Sneferu had raised more stone than any other pharaoh in history. His 3 great pyramids turned royal tombs into national monuments and opened the path for the marvels soon to rise at Giza. On the western bank of the Nile, just outside today's Cairo, rises the most celebrated monument complex on Earth, the Pyramids of Giza. Here, 3 mighty kings of the 4th dynasty built tombs that would dominate the skyline for more than 4,000 years. The first and largest was raised by Pharaoh Khufu, known to the Greeks as Cheops. When completed around 2560 BCE, it soared to about 146 meters high, and was sheathed in polished white limestone that gleamed in the sun like a colossal mountain of light. Its alignment with the cardinal points is so precise that modern surveyors still marvel at the accuracy. Khufu's monument required an estimated 2.3 million blocks, each weighing 2 to 3 tons. Transported by boat from nearby quarries and dragged up long ramps, the stones were set with such skill that even today the joints can be less than a millimeter wide. Beside Khufu's Colossus, his son Khafre built his own pyramid. Though slightly smaller, it seems taller because it stands on the higher bedrock and still bears a crown of its original casing stones near the top. In front of Khafre's pyramid lies the enigmatic guardian of the plateau, the Great Sphinx, carved from the natural limestone bedrock with the face of the king. The third and smallest of the trio belongs to Menkaure, Originally about 65 meters high, its lower courses were cased in red granite brought from Aswan, showing a refined style despite its lesser scale. 3 small Queen's pyramids stand beside it, completing the royal family group. Centuries of quarrying stripped away most of the smooth white Tura limestone casing, leaving the stepped core we see today. At the very peak once sat a polished capstone, the pyramidion, which may have been covered in electrum to flash like gold in the Egyptian sun. Each main pyramid was part of a larger funerary complex that included a valley temple near the Nile, a long causeway climbing to the mortuary temple beside the pyramid, boat pits for the king's celestial journey, and fields of mastaba, tombs, for officials and nobles. Together, they formed a vast, sacred landscape dedicated to eternal kingship. Recent excavations near Giza revealed the remains of an entire workers' city with bakeries, breweries, storage rooms, and even medical facilities. This evidence shows that a rotating workforce of tens of thousands of well-fed, skilled Egyptians, not slaves, built the pyramids with remarkable organization. For over 45 centuries, the pyramids of Giza have towered above the desert as symbols of human ambition, ingenuity, and spiritual faith. They remain the last surviving wonder of the ancient world, and continue to inspire awe in all who stand before them. Behind the grandeur of the pyramids lies a story of ingenious engineering and the human power that shaped millions of stones. Chapter 5 explores the tools, methods, and the people who transformed raw rock into monuments for eternity. Fine white limestone for the outer casing was quarried at Tura across the river, while harder red granite for inner chambers came from Aswan nearly 900 kilometers to the south. Ancient quarrymen used copper chisels, dolerite pounders, and wooden wedges that expanded when wet to crack the stone from its bedrock. The annual Nile floods allowed heavy stones to be floated by barge close to the building site. On land, teams hauled blocks on wooden sledges over tracks lubricated with water or mud to reduce friction, a technique confirmed by ancient tomb paintings. To raise stones to ever higher courses, builders constructed immense ramps of mud brick and rubble. Some scholars propose a long straight ramp, others a series of zigzagging switchbacks or even an internal spiral ramp within the growing pyramid. Levers and sledges helped inch each block into place. Without iron or modern machinery, the Egyptians relied on simple but effective tools: copper chisels and adzes for dressing limestone, dolerite pounders for granite, wooden sledges, rope, rollers, and measuring cords with plumb bobs to keep the angles true. Excavations south of the Sphinx revealed a planned workers' village with long dormitories, bakeries turning out thousands of loaves a day, breweries, storehouses, and even areas for medical treatment, proof of a large, organized, and well-cared-for labor force. Far from the old myth of enslaved masses, the builders were largely Egyptian farmers who worked on the pyramids during the agricultural off-season. They were paid in bread, beer, onions, and cloth, and served in rotating crews under professional overseers. Historians estimate that Khufu's Great Pyramid may have required a rotating workforce of 20,000 to 30,000 men. Scribes tracked deliveries of stone and food. Foremen directed teams called files, each with their own crew name and competition spirit to keep morale high. Supplying thousands of laborers demanded an efficient system of granaries, bakeries, dried fish stores, and breweries producing beer, the staple drink that provided calories and safe hydration. Skeletons of workers reveal evidence of well-healed injuries, suggesting that those hurt on the job received medical care and continued their lives, another sign of the organized, state-run nature of the pyramid projects. Every ramp, lever, chisel mark, and footprint speaks of human determination. The pyramids were not miracles of lost technology but triumphs of coordination, resource management, and the will of an ancient people to honor their kings in stone. Behind the engineering wonder of the pyramids lies the faith of a civilization that saw life on Earth as a brief journey to eternity. For the Egyptians, every block of stone was also a prayer carved in rock. The king was not only the ruler of Egypt, he was the living Horus, son of the sun god, Ra. A pyramid was more than a tomb. It was a divine machine to lift the king's soul back to the heavens from which he descended. The pyramid's shape mirrored the slanting rays of the sun. Its 4 triangular faces met at a single summit pointing heavenward, a symbolic stairway of light for the departed pharaoh to ascend and unite with Ra. Deep inside the stone corridors, priests inscribed the oldest religious writings known to humankind, the pyramid texts. These spells and hymns were guides for the soul, maps to the heavens, and magical protections against dangers of the afterworld. Within and around the pyramid lay food, drink, Fine furniture, jewelry, even full-sized wooden boats, all were meant to serve the pharaoh's spirit as he sailed across the celestial Nile to live forever among the gods. Every pyramid was part of a sacred landscape. A valley temple at the Nile's edge, a long covered causeway, and a mortuary temple at the pyramid's foot for daily offerings. Many monuments were aligned to cardinal points or to stars like Orion's belt, the celestial destination of kings. Royal burial was a sacred drama. Priests chanted spells, burned incense, poured libations of milk and wine, and sealed the sarcophagus with protective charms, every act intended to open the gates of the next world. The pyramids were at once royal tombs and towering symbols of divine kingship. They proclaimed to all who saw them that the pharaoh was the bridge between earth and heaven, a truth carved forever in stone. Though the rituals have long ceased and the gods' names have changed, the stone walls still whisper ancient prayers. To stand inside these chambers today is to feel the echo of a people's unshakable faith in life beyond death. Even after more than 4 millennia, the pyramids still challenge scientists and ignite the imagination. Their mathematical precision, astronomical alignments, and hidden voids keep researchers searching for answers. The Great Pyramid of Khufu is aligned to the 4 cardinal points with an error of less than 1/20th of a degree. For an ancient culture without modern instruments, such accuracy remains astonishing. Survey of the plateau shows that the base of the Great Pyramid varies in level by only a few centimeters across 230 meters, a feat likely achieved using water-filled channels and meticulous measuring cords. Some researchers note that the 3 Giza pyramids mirror the pattern of Orion's belt. Whether coincidence or intention, many believe the pyramids were laid out to reflect the heavens and guide the pharaoh's soul to the stars. Archaeoastronomers have found that certain temples and passages align with solstice sunrises and sunsets, showing the builders' keen observation of the sky's seasonal cycles. The Grand Gallery inside the Great Pyramid rises nearly 9 meters high with precision-cut corbelled walls and an exact slope. Its purpose remains debated, perhaps a symbolic corridor of ascent or a structural support for the king's chamber. 2 narrow shafts lead out from the king's chamber toward the exterior. Once thought to be for ventilation, many scholars believe they were aimed at specific stars, celestial passageways for the king's spirit. In 2017, a team using cosmic ray muon radiography detected a previously unknown large void above the Grand Gallery, a hidden space untouched since the pyramid's construction, whose function is still a mystery. The close-fitting joints between limestone casing blocks are often less than a millimeter wide. Though achieved with simple copper tools and hard stone pounders, the workmanship demonstrates a level of skill rarely matched in later ages. The extraordinary precision of the pyramids has inspired countless alternative theories, from lost high-tech machinery to alien architects. Mainstream archaeology attributes the feat instead to careful planning, huge manpower, and decades of trial and improvement. Despite centuries of study, new measurements and discoveries prove that the pyramids still hold many secrets. Each revelation deepens our admiration for the ancient engineers who raised these enduring monuments to precision, power, and mystery. After the triumph of the Giza kings, Egypt's pyramid tradition entered a slow decline. Political shifts, economic pressures, and changing religious ideas reshaped the way pharaohs sought their eternal homes. Fifth dynasty rulers such as Sahur and Nefertiti-Kar still built pyramids, but on a far smaller scale and with lower quality stone. Their focus moved toward elaborate sun temples honoring Ra, signaling a shift of resources away from the tomb itself. Later pyramids were often built with a core of rough rubble, encased in thin limestone, making them less stable and more vulnerable to erosion. Economic strains limited the scale of projects as Egypt channeled wealth into temples, bureaucracy, and military needs. Fluctuations in Nile floods affected harvests and state revenue. Growing provincial powers challenged the central authority of the pharaohs, weakening the ability to organize massive national construction works. By the time of the New Kingdom, royal burials moved away from giant pyramids to hidden rock-cut tombs in the Valley of the Kings. Secrecy offered better protection from robbers than monumental stone mountains visible for miles. Centuries after Khufu, the once majestic pyramid tradition had largely faded. What remained were weather-worn relics, reminders of a glorious age of national power and architectural ambition now past. Though the pyramid-building age ended, its legacy endured, inspiring later generations with lessons in engineering, statecraft, and the enduring quest to build monuments that outlast the builders themselves. For many centuries after the last pharaohs, the pyramids stood abandoned, their true origins forgotten. Legends replaced history while drifting sand slowly swallowed the once busy causeways and temples. By the 5th century BCE, the Greek traveler Herodotus visited the pyramids and wrote vivid accounts, a mixture of observation and hearsay. His stories shaped the Western imagination for 2 millennia.